The first thing Riven's soul noticed about the council garden was how fragile it looked. Petals made of translucent crystal drifted through the air, like falling breath, dissolving into light the moment they touched the ground. Nothing here was meant to last. The beauty was intentional, curated to remind every species that permanence was a myth. Riven thought that suited humans. He stood near the outer ring of the gathering, hands folded behind his back, posture calm but careful. He was not a warrior or a strategist. His title meant little compared to others present. He was a representative, chosen because he listened well and spoke softly. Humanity had decided that its first true voice among the stars should not shout across the garden. Sahala observed him. She was an archivist, her kind known for memory rather than power. Her skin shifted in gentle gradients of pale green and silver, reflecting emotion rather than hiding it. She had catalogued extinctions, alliances, forgotten songs, and last words spoken on dying worlds. Humans unsettled her because they moved forward even while grieving. When Riven looked up and their eyes met, he smiled. It was unguarded, untrained, not the kind of smile meant for councils or history. Sahala felt it like a fracture forming in something old and brittle inside her. Later, when the formal addresses dissolved into mingling, she found herself near him beside a pool of liquid light. Neither of them remembered choosing to move there. "You are very quiet," she said, voice textured like leaves brushing stone. Riven tilted his head. "I'm afraid of saying the wrong thing. Most who speak here are not," she replied. "That's what worries me." Her colors warmed slightly, blooming toward gold. "Silence can also carry meaning. Then I hope mine sounds peaceful." Protocol allowed only brief exchanges, but no one stopped them. Perhaps no one noticed. Perhaps no one cared. They spoke of small things, of how humans named distant stars after people they loved and lost, of how Sahala's people believed love was the sharing of memory rather than possession. Riven told her about rain on old cities. Sahala told him about flowers that sang only once before dying. "Does it hurt?" she asked gently. "To carry an entire species inside your chest." Riven considered this. "Only when it stops beating." She archived his words without meaning to. When the garden lights dimmed, something fragile had already formed between them. Not a promise, not a future, just recognition. They did not see the watchers reposition themselves along the perimeter. The summons came as a soft chime. Riven frowned slightly. That wasn't scheduled. Sahala felt unease ripple through her hues. "Do not go." He smiled again, smaller this time. "It's probably nothing." Nothing often was. He took 2 steps forward before the world changed. The petals froze midair, light suspended as if the garden itself held its breath. The weapon did not roar. It whispered. A clean line of brilliance passed through Riven's chest, precise and final. Sahala screamed. The sound tore through the stillness, raw and uncontained. Riven staggered, confusion giving way to understanding in a heartbeat that did not finish. He fell among the crystal petals, which shattered into dull fragments instead of light. Delegates recoiled. No one moved to help. Sahala dropped beside him, hands shaking as luminous blood soaked into the soil. "It was warm." "Too warm, no," she whispered. This was not decided. Riven's eyes found hers. They were already fading, but calm remained. "Don't let them make this loud," he breathed. "Don't let it become hatred." Tears blurred her vision. "You promised peace." "I still do," he said softly. His fingers brushed hers, weak but deliberate. "Remember me kindly." The connection lingered for one impossible second longer than it should have. Then he was gone. The council declared the matter resolved before the garden reset its light cycle. Explanations were issued in neutral tones. The human had misunderstood custom. A correction had been made. Order preserved. Sahala did not hear any of it. She stayed where Riven fell long after the others left, memorizing the shape of absence. She pressed her hand into the fractured soil and committed every detail to memory. Somewhere far away, humanity would learn what had been done. But here, in the quiet ruins of beauty, something far more dangerous than anger was born. Love with no place to go. And the galaxy would soon learn that silence, once broken, never truly returns. The courier ship drifted without lights. Its hull painted the dull gray of things meant not to be seen. Ilren preferred it that way. He moved through the narrow corridor with practiced ease, bare feet finding purchase on the magnetic strips lining the floor. His species had long limbs and soft, translucent skin that darkened with stress. Right now, faint shadows rippled along his arms as he checked the sealed data core strapped against his chest. Inside it lived a death, not just the record of what had happened in the council garden, but the quiet moments after, the screams that were cut short, the way the light hesitated, the way a body cooled while everyone pretended nothing important had occurred. Ilren had been there by accident. He had been delivering botanical records to the archives when he saw the human fall. He had not known the human's name then. He only knew the sound the archivist made when she knelt beside him. Grief carried a frequency that crossed species easily. He had copied everything. That was his crime. The ship received a coded ping as it slipped into the shadow of a dead star. Ilren's breath caught. Only one person still used that frequency. Maris. He rerouted power and opened the channel. Her image appeared, flickering and imperfect. She looked exhausted, dark circles beneath her eyes, hair pulled back without care. She was human, but not from the centers of power. A translator by trade, stranded far from home when council routes quietly closed. "You're late," she said softly. "I was followed," Ilren replied. "I lost them." Her shoulders loosened by a fraction. "Good." They sat in silence for a moment, listening to the low hum of the ship. Outside, the widow star glowed faintly, a collapsed sun that still radiated heat long after its death. "Did you see it?" Maris asked. Ilren nodded. "All of it." She closed her eyes. "Then it wasn't a rumor." "No," Maris swallowed. "They killed him to make a point. They killed him because they were afraid," Ilren said. "Fear hides behind ceremony." She laughed once, bitter. "Humans do that too." The ship docked with a forgotten relay station, its metal scarred by micrometeor impacts and neglect. No official traffic came here anymore. That was why Maris had chosen it. They met in the airlock. In person, she looked smaller, more fragile than her image suggested. Ilren felt something tighten in his chest at the sight of her. He had admired her from afar for months, exchanging encoded messages, sharing fragments of forbidden truth. Now she was real, shaking, breathing. "You're hurt," he said. "Just tired," she replied. "Come on." Inside the station, they powered up a single console. The room filled with dim light as Ilren unlocked the data core. The recording began to play, projecting across the curved wall. Maris watched without blinking. When it ended, she pressed her hands flat against the console, knuckles white. "They'll deny it. Some already are. And humans will answer." Ilren hesitated. "That worries me." She turned to him. "Why?" "Because violence travels faster than truth," he said. "And truth is already late." Maris softened then. "You didn't have to bring this to me." "Yes," Ilren said quietly. "I did." She studied his face, the faint darkening of his skin betraying emotion. "Why?" "Because someone loved him," Ilren replied. "And someone deserves to know." Something shifted between them. They worked through the cycle, breaking the recording into fragments, embedding it in harmless data streams, agricultural reports, weather forecasts, old music files. Each carried a piece of the truth, scattered like seeds. Between transmissions, they talked. Maris spoke of home, of oceans she might never see again. Ilren spoke of routes he no longer traveled, of how couriers were disappearing. At one point, the power dipped, plunging the room into near darkness. Maris laughed softly, startled. "I hate the dark," she admitted. Ilren reached for her hand without thinking. She did not pull away. Her skin was warm, solid, grounding. "When this spreads," she said, "everything changes." "Yes, you could leave," she added. "No one would blame you." Ilren shook his head. "I'm already part of it." She squeezed his hand. "So am I." The final packet transmitted just before dawn cycle, slipping past council filters toward human space. They sat together on the station floor as the widow star brightened slightly, its last song spilling radiation into the void. "Do you think peace survives this?" Maris asked. Ilren considered. "I think peace changes shape." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "Stay," she said. Not as a demand, not as a plea, just a truth spoken aloud. He rested his cheek against her hair. I will. Outside, the star continued to glow, dying slowly, beautifully and across the galaxy. The truth began to sing. The palace was built to make people feel small. Noemi felt at the moment the transport doors sealed behind her. The corridors curved upward, walls inlaid with dark minerals that swallowed light instead of reflecting it. Even sound seemed to fade here, as if the structure itself disliked being disturbed. She had been invited, not taken. That distinction mattered, even if it felt thin as paper. Noem, I was a botanist by training, chosen for her work on adaptive plant systems that could survive hostile atmospheres. Officially, she was here to advise. Unofficially, she was leverage. A human presence kept close, displayed when needed. She did not expect kindness. She certainly did not expect Caliph. He found her in the inner garden, standing barefoot in soil imported from a dozen worlds. His skin bore the muted tones of his people, deep slate threaded with faint silver lines that pulsed slowly with his breath. Unlike the others, he wore no insignia, no ornament that declared rank. You should not touch the roots directly, he said. Noem, I looked up, startled. They asked me to. He knelt beside her, fingers hovering just above the soil. They do not understand how easily these plants absorb intent. She raised an eyebrow. Intent. His mouth curved slightly. You are angry, Noemi exhaled. Is it that obvious? To me, he said. Yes. They worked in silence for a while after that. She adjusted nutrient levels. He redirected light apertures. The plants responded, leaves unfurling with slow trust. You know this place well, she said eventually. I grew up here, Caliph replied. Before the crown became heavy, she glanced at him. You're royal. He did not deny it. In name, not in choice. Noemi laughed quietly. Humans are good at names we don't choose. Their meetings continued. Always in the garden, always unobserved, or so it seemed. Caliph spoke of the empire as one might speak of a sleeping beast, vast and dangerous, but not inherently cruel. Noemi spoke of worlds humans had broken and tried to heal again. They think love makes us weak. Caliph said once. Humans think that too, Noemi replied. Until it saves them. The day the news reached the palace, the air changed. The king was dead. No trumpets announced it. No alarms. Just a ripple through the servants, the guards, the walls themselves. A ruler who had slept in shadow was gone, and the silence afterward was deafening. Caliph found Noemi before anyone else could reach her. You are no longer safe here, he said. She searched his face. Was it you? He hesitated. Not long enough to lie. I did not stop it. Noemi closed her eyes. When she opened them, there was no fear, only resolve. Then you must decide what you are now. Alarms began to echo, distant and uneven. The palace was waking, confused and wounded. Come with me, Caliph said. Before they decide, you are a symbol. And you? She asked. He looked back at the throne chamber doors. I will never be king, he said. But I can choose what follows. They ran, through servant passages and forgotten corridors, through doors that opened only for bloodlines and belief. They reached a small landing platform just as the first searchlights cut through the sky. The ship was old, barely armed, forgotten like the truths it carried. Noemi hesitated at the hatch. If we leave, there's no returning to what we were. Caliph took her hand. I have never been what they wanted. She smiled then, soft and sad. Neither have I. The ship lifted, slipping into the dark as the palace blazed behind them. Somewhere far away, the galaxy shifted again, not because a king had fallen, but because two people chose love over inheritance, and the shadow finally broke. Vasha learned early how to disappear, not by leaving, but by becoming part of the background. She learned which floors creaked, which corridors swallowed sound, which faces never looked down at those who served them. Silence was her skill, invisibility her inheritance. The palace taught her well. She polished crystal railings while history walked past her. She refilled light reservoirs while rulers argued about lives measured in numbers. She heard secrets spoken too loudly by those who believed servants were furniture. When the old king died, no one asked what Vasha had seen. That was why she survived. Oren arrived weeks later, escorted quietly. introduced as an exile poet granted temporary residence under revised protocols. His presence confused the palace. Poets were not useful. They did not threaten. They simply noticed things. Vasha noticed him noticing. He walked slowly, as if listening to the air. His hair was untrimmed, his clothing worn but clean. When others spoke, he watched their hands. When they fell silent, he listened harder. They met in the western corridor, where light bent oddly and footsteps vanished. "You move like you're hiding," he said gently. Vasha froze. Servants were not meant to be addressed. "And you move like you don't care who sees you," she replied before she could stop herself. His mouth curved. "I learned that later. She should have walked away." Instead, she asked, "Why are you here?" "To give silence a name," Oren said. "And maybe a voice." The palace was changing. Without the king, power leaked into strange places. Councils argued. Heirs vanished. Fear grew roots in marble halls. Vasha felt it in the way guards lingered longer, the way doors locked too early. She began leaving messages for Oren. Small things, warnings, times when corridors were unsafe. He responded with poems scratched into forgotten panels. They spoke in fragments. One night, alarms sounded again. Not loud, not dramatic, just enough to make the palace hold its breath. Vasha was cleaning the lower archive wing when she saw them carrying the body. Not the king, another, a figure wrapped in ceremonial cloth, face hidden, blood dark against pale fabric. An official, important enough to die quietly. "They're removing witnesses," Oren whispered beside her. She had not heard him approach. "They're afraid," Vasha said. "Good," he replied softly. "Fear listens." They did not plan the assassination. That surprised her. She had expected knives and urgency, rage and shouting. Instead, it happened like a decision made after too much thought. The council met. Votes were cast. One ruler remained, old, brittle, desperate to restore order. He signed his own death warrant without knowing it. Vasha carried the key. Not a weapon, not poison, just access. She handed it to Oren with trembling fingers. "I don't want blood on my hands," she said. "You won't," he replied. "Only truth." The chamber was quiet when it happened. No guards, no audience. Just a room designed to amplify authority and a ruler who believed silence meant obedience. Oren spoke first. Not accusations, not threats, a story. He spoke of gardens where petals dissolved, of couriers who risked everything, of heirs who fled thrones and servants who remembered. The ruler listened, confused, until the truth settled in his bones. When the blade activated, it was quick, merciful. Afterward, Oren did not look triumphant. He looked tired. Vasha felt no joy, only release. They left together before the palace realized it was leaderless again. Outside, dawn cycle broke over the city, light spilling across towers that no longer knew who they belonged to. "What now?" Vasha asked. Oren took her hand. Now we let the galaxy breathe. They walked into the waking world, no longer silent, no longer unseen. And somewhere, far beyond the palace walls, peace learned its next name. The galaxy did not end when the throne fell. That surprised everyone. Markets still opened. Ships still followed trade lanes etched into spacetime centuries ago. Stars burned with the same indifferent patience they always had. If anything, the universe seemed relieved, like a storm that had passed without shattering the ground. Elon watched the feeds from a rented relay station on the edge of neutral space. He was not a soldier, not a leader, just a historian who specialized in collapses, how empires unraveled not with explosions, but with pauses. The pause had arrived. The council chambers stood empty, not destroyed, just abandoned. Delegates refused to sit in chairs that now felt cursed. No one wanted to be the next symbol. Elon cataloged it all. The way language shifted, the way announcements softened into requests, the way humans were suddenly addressed with care instead of calculation. He noticed something else too: love, not the loud kind sung about in legends, the quiet kind that threaded through reports like a second story no one meant to tell. A botanist and a crownless heir vanished together, their ship last seen crossing an unclaimed drift. A servant and a poet walked freely through a capital that no longer knew who to bow to. Their names were not recorded in official logs, but Elon recorded them anyway. He wrote about how the first death of a human diplomat had been meant as a lesson, how it had instead become a mirror, how humanity had not responded with conquest, but with refusal. Refusal to beg, refusal to kneel, refusal to forget. They killed our voice, Elon dictated softly. So we taught the galaxy to listen. He paused, then added, and when the crown fell, it was not replaced. On Earth, memorial gardens bloomed where council embassies once stood. No statues, no slogans, just plants chosen to survive together despite incompatible origins. Elon visited one, months later. He sat on a low stone bench, watching children, human and otherwise, run between leaves that glowed faintly in shared sunlight. No guards watched them. No banners claimed them. A woman sat beside him, her hair streaked with silver, her posture calm in a way that suggested she had once known palaces and chosen distance instead. "You're writing about us," she said. Elon did not ask how she knew. "I'm trying to," he replied, without turning it into myth. She smiled. "Good. Myths flatten people." A moment later, a man joined her. His presence was gentle, deliberate. He carried soil under his nails. Elon recognized them. "You left everything," he said. "We left ownership," the man replied. "There's a difference. Was it worth it?" Elon asked. The woman considered the garden, the children, the open sky. "Love always is," she said, "especially when it costs you power." They left soon after, melting back into the world the way they had entered it. Elon returned to his work. His final record was not dramatic. It ended with a single observation: empires fall when they forget why they exist. Kings die when they mistake silence for loyalty. But the galaxy changes only when ordinary people choose each other over thrones. He archived the file under a simple name. Not war, not vengeance, just aftermath. And in that quiet space, after the crown, the universe learned how to begin again.